The Rabbi Yasker answers shyness. I don't pass.
Okay, I have a question for you. You have a substitute giving the class on Friday. Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is Michael giving the class on Friday?
Okay, I'll tell you, discuss it with you. Basically, it was because I needed to prepare. I would have had to prepare both for Friday and Shabbos because I was giving it on Shabbos.
Oh,
Now I've got somebody else giving it on Shabbos, but it's still helpful to have Michael give it on Friday so that if need be, I can start preparing for Sunday.
you can do two jobs. Okay,
Okay?
all right, I got it. Who gives it on Shabbos? I'm never here. Shabbos.
Rabbi Shimon Green.
Oh.
No relation, it's a matter of
No,
fact.
no. I didn't see him today. No, usually he davens.
I know, usually davens at the 7:30 minyan. He went to a different minyan this morning.
You don't know how popular that's.
Start selling it, Ruvain, you know.
Threatening physical damage.
If you start selling it, you know.
Let's say that you're doing a communal project. So everybody.
Amen. Okay, good morning, gentlemen. Let me start with a little administrativia. Okay, Rabosai, I need your attention, please. Everybody. Rabosai. Okay. All right. Okay, couple of administrative items. Tuesday morning is the siyum. It will be in this room after the shiur. However, Monday morning, we will have to move from here back to the library, okay, because of a number of situations. Okay, so it's just for Monday morning. Okay, I know it's a longer davening. Okay, but it was also dependent upon other items meeting and also what Jus was going to be able to do to set up or change rooms and things like that. So just Monday morning, we will meet in the back in the new library. Okay, and then Jus has to ensure that we will have tables. He will make an extra effort to delay his setting that room up for a 10 o'clock class. So it means Monday morning, we will need to go through the Gemara pretty adroitly. Okay. Well, that's another fancy word. Okay. Okay. All right. So that is the situation so far. Also, please remember, for the siyum, I believe, Michael, you're going to make copies, right? You'll take care of Mordechai, of copies of.
I will make copies.
Of which?
Of both. I will make copies of Nazir.
Of Nazir.
Yeah, you gotta bring your Gemara to learn.
Right, so you got to bring the regular Nadarim Gemara, use that, and you, right. That's true. Some won't bring two. Okay, all right, so that is for Tuesday. All right.
Also, if you did not already sign up, it's closed. So unless we got your $13, please do not
Well,
make it pay.
I would,
If you do, and I catch you, you're gonna have to pay back too.
I would indicate that there may be people who are coming but to hear the siyum but not eating. I know you do. Okay, but there have been people who have asked if they can come for the siyum, they just won't. Okay. All right, learning sponsors, a year of learning, Isaac and Evelyn Bloch in memory of his sister. Mordechai Rachel Bas Isser. Friends of Leonie Meisman, Leah Saber Bas Chanoch Sundel. Friends of Mel Iskotsky, Moshe Zelig Ben Mordechai. 2 months of learning by the Friends of Milton Meller in honor of his second bar mitzvah. A month of learning by Mindel and David Cheslow in memory of her father, Nehemiah Ben Mordechai Yonah Halev. Aaron and Mel Haller in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bas Yehuda Lev. Yossi Goldstein in memory of his father, Moshe Tzvi Ben Dov. Isaac and Eda Novik in memory of his mother, Miriam Gittel Bas Chanoch Henech. Perry and Jill Meltzer in memory of his mother, Malka Bas Baruch, and his sister Golda Leah Bas David Halevi. Tova and Leo Zimmer in memory of her mother, Henya Bas Reb Beryl, and her father, Aaron Ben Yosef Mordechai. B. Pizer in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim Ben David. Stanley Presser in memory of his mother, Leah Bas Yehuda, his mother-in-law Golda Bas Leber, and his wife Ruchel Mincha Bas Moshe. A week of learning by Oscar and Shelley Moll in memory of his father Shlomo Ben Yitzchak and his mother Rachel Bas Naftali. Judith and Michael Poretsky in memory of his father Yaakov Yitzchak Ben Hirsch Feivel. Beverly Hersko in memory of her father Yisrael Ben Chaim Tzvi. Marty and Judy Engel in memory of his mother at the Sarah Bas Ephraim Fishel Halevi. Okay, and as far as an individual day of learning, today is the 22nd of January. We do not have any individual days of learning. Therefore, may Neshama is having a Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shema Tliya, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael Good Gaben Shtia. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Some of the Mishnah take that.
Yeah, no, I just, okay. We're going to start on Peichet Amud Beis with the Masnitin, with the Mishnah on the bottom of the Amud. Okay? Okay. Today's Gemara continues with the discussion of the pasuk, right? And somebody should have, I should have. Okay, the and in this today's Gemara cites, okay, from the pasuk, okay, the okay, the I want to just review the section from the Torah real quick. It's Bamidbar chapter 30, few verses in. Okay, V'isha ki tido neder l'Hashem ba'asra isar b'veit aviha b'neureha. Okay, so again, remember I'm saying this, that it's the husband nullifying, revoking the vow for his wife. Okay, and the specific word neureha there at the end of the pasuk. So that's where we saw the question was if she was a na'ara, me'urasa. Okay, we talked about it had to be both the father as well as the husband. But if it's not, if she's not me'ureset, if she's not betrothed or engaged, however mekudeshet, right? Then it's just the father, right? V'isha kitidur, it says, it goes on, v'isra asar b'veit, right? V'shama aviha et nidra v'asara asher asra nafsha v'ishla v'kamu kol v'isar asher asra nafsha. V'imheini haviata. Okay, goes on. Okay, and then they go right. V'im hayotia leish unidara. It goes on. V'shama isha v'yom sham'o v'hecharish la v'kamu nidaraha v'esara asher esra al nafsha. Okay, so that's where it went on. Okay, and then the Chumash says on verse 10, V'neder almana ugrusha, kol asher asra al nafsha yakum aleha. And the Art Scroll translates it, the vow of a widow or a divorcee. This applies also to a woman who might not be married either. Anything she had prohibited upon herself shall remain upon her. That is the pasuk. Okay. Now our Gemara starts off. The Mishnah starts off referring to that pasuk. Okay. V'neder almana grusha yakum aleha. Okay. When we say that, when that pasuk implies that the widow or the divorcee, her vow remains in effect. Ketzad. What situations might that be? Asks the Mishnah. Amra, for example, if she says the following vow, okay, Hareini Nazira Achar Shloshim Yom. Okay, that I declare myself to be a Nazira, okay, after 30 days. Afal pi sheniseit b'toch Shloshim Yom, were she to marry within that 30-day period, okay? All right, what happens? Eino yachol lahafer. He is not able to negate it.
I don't know what you heard, but the time will be here again tomorrow. You say we're planning on moving it back to the library, but it'll be here.
Yeah.
In here.
Okay, I've just heard from the still current chairman of the House Committee. We will be in here tomorrow.
The office here.
Thank you, Gary.
They're gonna just start that other minion that they just started today, 15 minutes early, so it doesn't interfere with the women Rosh Kodesh that starts at 9.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Okay, that makes life a lot easier for all of us. Okay.
Does she have to cut up her hair?
Okay, were she, all right, so what happens? Afal pi sheniseit, but even though she took a vow that the Nazareth does not begin till 30 days later, and in that interim time, she marries, okay?
You knew about her before you married.
Well, what?
Irrelevant.
Question. What's your question?
My question is, how do you know the guy will continue to marry her? It's causing.
Oh, wait a second. That's a separate issue. That's his tough luck. Okay, but in reality, wait, there's a reason, there's a reason that I'm going to answer your question differently, Siri. He cannot revoke that vow. Why? Because he cannot revoke vows prior to her becoming his wife.
My clutch is, did he know beforehand?
That is irrelevant.
Okay, so the point is, no, it's not a klutz kasha, because I'm going to take it again and spin it and say, the implication comes to ask the underlying question of the Mishnah. When does this kind of, and when does a neder really go into effect? When is it said, or when there's a date applied to it? Okay. All right. So the Gemara is going to have to focus on that element.
In that,
One at a time.
in that particular case,
Right.
they might be able to get an annulment because the marriage was a makeup choice. But that is not what we're learning.
Exactly.
We're learning about Nidor.
Right. Okay.
So Nazira.
So we're going to see the Gemara is ultimately going to tell us eventually that there is a machloket on that topic. as to whether the effectiveness of the neder begins when it was uttered, or when it goes into, or when it's, or the date on which it is designated to go into effect.
Nazira has to cut off over here also?
Any person who takes a vow of Nazareth will learn a lot more of that next Masechet, okay? But they have to go through a series of steps. Removing hair is only one of them,
Burn a bunch of animals.
Right,
birds,
okay.
beasts.
but notice here, since it's the fact that she made that vow before she entered Nisuin, he cannot revoke any vow prior to that, okay? All right, so that's, now we come back to now the top of today's daf, pay 10. That's a whole different story. Is she going to go to a chacham to get the annul? Theoretically, she could. She didn't have to go to a chacham. She can go to 3 Hedyotot.
Nothing that's yet.
Okay, but for this, Nazareth is a little bit heavier. I would also say that probably the better way would be to go through it to a chacham. Okay? All right, so what happens? We're now on pay tet, top of the Amud, and it's clarifying what we just said. Okay, namely, why did we say that he can't revoke it? Because she made it prior to the Nisuin. So the Gemara, now the Mishnah continues, right? Nadra vehi bereshut habal. If she makes the vow when she is in the domain of the husband, in other words, Nisuin
Married woman.
plus, right? Meferla, the husband is able to revoke it. Okay, what about that situation, Kate Sad? For example, says our Mishnah, Amra Hareini Nizira La'achar Shloshim Yom. Say she makes a statement that I will be a Nazareth after 30 days. Okay, and we have to read it here into the Mishnah, and the husband revokes the vow. Okay, Afa pi shenit almana o nit garsha b'toch shloshim, even though she could have become widowed or divorced within that 30-day period. Harei ze mufar. The husband, since he's already revoked it, it is revoked. Even if he were to divorce her, okay, before the date of the start of that vow.
So we see that it's in effect.
Okay, okay, so we have actually both.
So
We
in this case, because if it's only, if it's Beni being it's only during the marriage.
right.
So we see in this case.
It could be Inui Nefesh by Rabbana. Okay, so that's the point.
He revokes it. She reinstitutes it.
You what?
No, she doesn't have to revoke. If it's revoked, it's revoked.
No, but if she says, I don't.
If after the divorce,
After the divorce,
she could establish the matter you're asking, sure she could. Okay,
she's a free woman.
right? Right. And by the way, in that situation, okay, if she is younger than a Bogeris, she's already out of the reshus of her father, and he can't revoke
So it's a done deal.
it, okay? So that just adds to the strength of your question, Steve. Okay,
The old vow does not reinstate itself. You have to make a new vow.
she would have to make a new vow in that situation.
It's not, it's just an explanation.
It's a
that even
clarification,
though the vow
right?
doesn't affect him in the
It's a
slightest,
clarification.
it's
Okay, the point being, all right, it's still, once he revoked it, it's revoked. He then could either divorce her, or if something happens, he dies. Okay, but it's considered a revoked vow. That's the point. Harez, notice the different, mufar. That's hufal tense. In Hebrew, it's having been revoked would be a translation. Okay,
Next one's cool.
Now we go on to a new example. Nadra bo bayom. She takes a vow, I'm going to say, in the morning of her wedding day.
After the.
Okay.
After all.
Okay, what happens? Okay, the morning of her wedding day. When did she take that vow? After the ceremony had taken place. However, the husband hears that she did such a vow, v'nitgarsha bo bayom. He divorces her that day. Okay, by noon, she's divorced. What happens, however? He has regret for whatever reason, okay? Vehechzira bo bayom. He takes her back that same day, 3:00 in the afternoon, or whatever, okay? In that case, all right? And now the husband is not able, I don't want to say new husband, the husband on the second go around, same guy on the second go around, Eino yachol lahafer. He is not able to revoke that earlier morning vow. Okay? Right? Not able to revoke it. Right? Why? Because it's before this nisuin. It's before the second ceremony, the second marriage. Okay? Okay? Zeh haklal. Here's the ruling. Kol sheyatzat l'reshut atzma, whenever she is in her own independent status, as when she was divorced in this particular case, sha'achat, even for a short period of time, eino yachol lahafer. Okay, the husband, doesn't matter if it's certainly not a new guy, okay? But even if it's the same guy, he cannot revoke that vow. Right? Okay? What? No, the father can't do it because she was independent. She's been independent. First, she married, so she's no longer in the domain of the father. Then he divorced her, so now she's independent. So she's still no longer in the domain of the father. Now she's married again. Okay? So that's the.
Rabbi, is there a condition between the two, a second condition between the two?
Well, of course.
Sure, you'd have to. Sure.
They have both condition and receipt.
Right, right. Okay. It's busy that day too. Right. Okay.
It also makes no difference how old she could be in Nara.
Oh, wait, Zev, hold on that question. Hold on that question. Because in our next Mishnah, we're going to see a whole series of situations that deal with that. Okay? Good question, but hold on to it. Okay? Till we get to the next Mishnah. All right? Okay, Tanya. Okay, our Braita teaches, however, Almana Ugrusha Sha'amra, a widow or a divorcee who says, Hareini Nizira L'kshe'enaseh, I will become an Israel when I marry. Vinis 8, and she proceeds and goes ahead and marries. What's the situation? Rabbi Yishmael Omer Yefer. According to Rabbi Yishmael, he claims that the husband may revoke the vow. Why? We're going to see momentarily. Okay? Rabbi Akiva Omer Lo Yefer. However, Rabbi Akiva disagrees and says, no, that husband cannot revoke the vow. Okay? Why is this the case? Because Rabbi Akiva holds, like the rabbis, that the vow goes into the effect at the time it is uttered. Rabbi Yishmael holds that that in this kind of a situation, when there is a date dedicated, the vow does not go into effect until the dedicated date. Okay, so that's the difference between them.
So Rabbi Shmuel disagrees with our mission.
So he disagrees with this Mishnah as well. And the Gemara wants to tell us v'simana, and we give you a mnemonic device to try to remember what the order of the halacha is. Yud Lamed Lamed Yud, which stands for Yefer, Lo Yefer, Lo Yefer, Yefer. Okay, in that order. All right. Okay. So what happens now? The Gemara gives us another case. Eshet Ish, a married woman. She'amra Hareini Nizira, et Garesh, who says, I will become a Nazareth when I'm divorced. Okay. V'nit Garsha, and she becomes divorced. Rabbi Yishmael Omer Lo Yefer. Okay, so here's our other brighter. He says, no, he cannot revoke.
Meaning before their divorce.
Right, okay. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yefer. And Rabbi Akiva says, no, he may revoke the, right? So here's where we get this issue of Yefer, Lo Yefer, Lo Yefer, Yefer, to tell us who said what, okay? Amar Rabbi Yishmael. Now he tries to give his rationale. Says Rabbi Yishmael, Harehu Omer, but we have a pasuk that says, and this was our pasuk that we cited from the Torah at the beginning of the Mishnah, V'neder almana ugrusha v'gomer, right? In other words, the vow of a widow or divorcee remains in effect. Therefore, ad sheyehe neder b'shat almanut ugrushin. Therefore, he argues that until it begins or arrives, I'm going to say, to the moment when she becomes a widow or a divorcee. That's why he argues the vow doesn't go into effect until the designated future date, okay, when it's supposed to go into effect. Rabbi Akiva Savar. Rabbi Akiva, however, holds differently, and he says, Harehu Omer, but we have part of a pasuk that says, Kol asher asra al nafsha, okay, what she prohibits on herself, namely, based on the fact that she made a prohibition, and I'm emphasizing here the word of asra as the word that Rabbi Akiva is darshaning here, okay, al nafsha, ad sheyehe isurei neder b'sha'at almanut ugerushin. When she has uttered this prohibition on herself, that's when it goes into effect, ultimately at the designated date. Okay? But she made a prohibition on herself, that means it is active, right? Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, if that's the case, okay, matnitin Rabbi Akiva, our Mishnah then must be based on the view of Rabbi Akiva and not Rabbi Yishmael. Namely, that we said that a vow takes effect when it is uttered.
The
Okay.
husband can be made fair.
Okay. Well, at that, she's got to say it first, okay? Because that's when it goes into effect. Abai Amar, hold on, says Abai. Filu Tema Rabbi Yishmael. I might even say that you could say our Mishnah follows the view of Rabbi Yishmael. Why? Matnitin Talia Nafsha Biome. I could argue that our Mishnah is based on the fact that it is dependent on a certain number of days, a specific date. Okay? Baraita, whereas the Braitas we've just seen, Talia Nafsha Benisuin. She made that Braita, and there the language is based on the event.
I will become an
Okay,
Nazarite when
that event
when
occurs.
she gets
It
married.
could be marriage,
That's what the Mishnah, the
that
price.
Brisa says, but our other part of the Brisa says, or divorce. But it's when the event,
But in those cases, it may or may not ever happen.
right. So that's what the Gemara is going to get to next. But Abayas continues his argument and says, but hold on a second. You could have such, since it's based on a future event, okay, or a future date, it's possible, says Abai, Shalmu Yomai Velo Nitgarsha, that the days will reach that occasion, but she could not be divorced at that point. Shalmu Yomai Velo Mitnasba. It's possible that the date, given the date she had designated, arrives, but she's not married yet. Okay, so that's the point, is why Abaye is arguing in this situation, okay, that it could even be that our Mishnah might be like Rabbi Ishmael. Okay, so the Gemara goes on, however, and tells us the following. Hold on a second. We said there's a general principle here, but we're also going to find the fact, it reminds us, there was a general principle we found in the previous parak. Are these in contradiction or what? What do we see in our parak? We cited first, Zehaklau. We said this is the general principle, the Katani, where it says, right? Gabe Na'ara HaMe'urasa, which actually was our previous parak, last parak, Le'ituye. It comes along to tell us, right? Halach ha'av im shluchei habal, were the husband to bring the young lady, okay, and meet the representatives, the father, I mean, meet the representatives of the husband. Oh, or perhaps
He goes along.
right, he escorts her to meet the representatives of the husband. Okay, oh, shahalchu shluchei ha'av im shluchei habal, or the representatives of the father escort the young lady to meet the representatives of the future husband. Okay, that's in that situation. B'na'ara ha'me'urasa, regarding a na'ara, a girl under 12 and a half, we said, who is betrothed, me'ureset. In that case, if she makes a vow, da'aviha u'ba'ala mefirin nidareha. Both exactly, Hesh, that her husband, her father and her husband must jointly revoke the vow. Okay, that was what we learned in the previous parak. Zehaklau.
The father and the husband?
Yes.
Has to be joined?
No, it has to be joint. Doesn't mean they have to do it together, but it means they both have to do it within the same day.
No, within the day.
They hear the day they're aware of it. Okay. Now in our parak, we've just learned Zehaklau, the Katani Gabe Ve'elu Nidari, which is our parak right now. What did we learn? La'atuye masar ha'av l'shluchei habal. If the father hands over, transmits whatever, the young lady to the representatives of the husband, oh shemasru shluchei ha'av l'shluchei habal, or the representatives of the father hand over, deliver the young lady to the representatives of the husband. She'ein habal mefer b'kodmin, that the husband cannot revoke any earlier vow. Okay, so that's where we said, right? That's where we said that a husband, under any circumstance, cannot revoke vows of the woman prior to their marriage, to their nisuin. Okay, now, okay, so we see that's the case, particularly, by the way, how important it is, just saying how nicely that Ravina and Rav Ashi edited the Gemara here by reminding us of what we learned in the previous parak about a na'ara mu'ureset. Why? Because that follows very nicely to lead us into the next new Mishnah that tells us further information about a girl who's in the status of Na'ara. Okay? So you see appreciation for their efforts to how the Gemara is structured. What happens? New Mishnah, bottom of the Amud. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you in advance. Okay? We're going to see here 9 situations presented, however, by a particular sage, whereas the Chachamim really classify it only into,
And Rabbi Yehuda answered.
okay, 3, and then at the end, we're going to see somebody suggest, well, here's one other possible example that fits into the category. Yeah.
Also, Na'ara here simply means young woman.
Okay.
Doesn't mean, well,
Okay, all right, so now we're going to get this new Mishnah, right? Okay, says the Mishnah, Teisha Na'arot Nidrehen Kayami. There are 9, according to the Tanna Kama, 9 situations where when a Na'ara, okay, so this clearly could be a Katana, okay, below 12 years old, but eligible to know to whom, okay, let's say 11, she knows to whom you make vows to, or between 12 and 12 and a half, she could be.
or even after that.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so this could be a girl who's not betrothed, not me'uresed. Okay. So what kind of, so who normally revokes her vows? The father. Normally, right? What happens if there's no father? Okay.
Can the mother do
No,
it?
no.
What happens if, now, under what circumstances might there be no father? What? What circumstances was he dying? Okay, so that's a simple example, right? What other situation might there be? If the-
Overseas, he's not available.
Say,
Becomes a Bulgarian.
Okay, all right. So another example we just heard, okay, is that she could have been a 10-year-old married off, then divorced, and now once she's divorced, she's independent.
She's living back in her father's
Okay.
house, but he ain't divorced.
But the fact of the matter is, having been married, she's no longer under his real authority. Another example, as Ruvain just said, is she could have been suddenly she reached a point where she becomes a Bogeres. So the Mishnah is going to go into a whole number of scenarios. Okay, I just wanted to give some examples outside. Now we'll go inside. Okay. First case, Bogeret vehi yetoma. Okay, so in that particular case, right, she becomes a Bogeret, and at some point her father, let's say, dies. All right,
No,
all right.
no.
She's a
Father is alive.
but she
and she's
becomes a Bogeret. So she's no longer subject to his authority. Okay? That's the simplest one. Second case, right? Na'ara ubagra. She was originally between 12 and 12 and a half. Okay, now she's over 12 and a half. Vehi yetoma. Okay, and now what happens? Again,
He's still
father
alive,
loses-
but he no longer has.
she's like somebody who's no longer has a father, right? Because she's once she's again Bogra, she's no longer under his authority. Okay,
So in that case, she made the neder before she reached puberty.
right?
Father doesn't hear about it till after she reaches puberty.
That's one
He can
option.
no longer-
Okay,
No,
that's one option. Nara, if she was engaged and then married, and then the right, became widowed or divorced, she's still no longer under the father's jurisdiction.
The father was deaf, and you never heard about it because he's deaf.
That's a whole nother situation.
We learned.
Third case, Na'ara shelo bagra v'hi yitoma. Okay, that's the third of the first set. Okay, she was a Na'ara. Okay, she did not yet become a Bogeres. Okay, but she is considered like not having a father
Because she was married.
because she maybe was married and divorced. Okay. Second set of three, Bogeres umesa viha. Okay, that's clearly number one, she's not under his authority because she's a Bogeres, and number two, because the father is dead. Okay, that's a simple case. Second of number three, Na'ara Bogeres umesa viha. Okay. Right. So what? So there, she was a Na'ara at first, then she became a Bogeres, and then the father died. Okay. Third of number three, Na'ara Shelo Bagra. Okay, she was originally married. While she was a Na'ara. Okay, that's when she made the vow. She is not yet a Bagra, but what happens in the meantime? Father is out of the situation, dies. Okay. Now we get to the third set of three. Okay. Na'ara Shemet Aviha. Right? She's a Na'ara, and her father actually died while she's either a Ketana or a Na'ara. Right? Umishemet Aviha Bagra. Okay.
When did she make the nether?
She made the nether while she was still either a Ketana or a Na'ara. Okay. Right?
We didn't hear.
But he didn't hear because he's dead. All right. Okay. And now she's a Bagra. All right. Second of the third set. Bogeres Vahavia Kayam. Or simply the fact that she became 12 and a half. Okay. The father could still be alive,
He's no longer.
but he's no longer has the authority over it to revoke. Okay. Na'ara Bogeres. All right, she's a Na'ara, she becomes Bogeres, Va'avia Kayam. And her father is still alive, but once again, she's a Bogra.
So here the difference is that she made the vow while she was a Naira,
Yeah,
and she became a Bulgaris. Now the father, even if it's the same day, the father
can't revoke it.
Did the father revoke it if he's on his deathbed?
If he's still alive.
So long as he's alive, right? Rabbi Yehuda is going to add another example. Okay? Omer af hamasi et bito haktana. He suggests, Rabbi Yehuda, that one who marries off his minor daughter, let's say she's 11, because this way she can still make a vow, right? Vidnit almana unit garsha. And she became widowed or divorced.
But she's still a Naira.
Okay.
But she's still
And
a
she could
Naira.
still be a katana, right? All right, or it could be a nara. V'chazra etzlo, but she comes back to live under his roof. Adayan hi na'ara, while she's still a na'ara. But what happened? Once she was married, or once she was divorced, she's now considered independent.
When she's married.
Yeah, well, once she's married first, okay?
Does the father have to have a clear mind when he does that?
What?
Could be,
No, he can be a dictator.
all right? Okay, all right, so the Mishnah listed 9, it may be 10 categories if we add Rabbi Yehuda's, okay? And then what happens? The Gemara, okay? Actually, there are 3, what we call 3 major with subdivisions. Okay, so now, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Zo Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That was the view that, in other words, the way we listed it in the Mishnah as 9 situations, and then an additional one, that's the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Aval Chachamim Omrim, Shalosh Na'arot nidrehen kayamim. But the sages only group it in 3 examples. Bogeret, in one case, right, she reaches more than 12 and a half, and therefore she's no longer under his authority for revocation. Number 2, Yitoma, that she's an actual orphan, in other words, from the father, okay? Or number 3, Yitoma b'chayei ha'av, okay? Or she's considered like a orphan, okay, because of some other situation. All they're saying is in these situations, whatever the vow remains in effect. You're not revocation.
The 9 are all really permutation.
Okay, right. Okay, matnitin, let's go on. Okay, she says as follows. Okay, in this situation, we want to see what happens as to whether or not one can revoke a neder before it takes effect, if it depends on a condition. Okay? Matnitin. The wife says, Konem she'eni nehene la'aba ula'avich im oseh ani al picha. Okay? It would be like a sacrifice for me were I to benefit from your father or my father if I do something for you.
For you.
For you, that's what I said. Okay? Or she phrases it this way. She'eni nehanet lach im oseh ani al pi abba va'al pi avich. Okay? Again, I'm making it, that will be like a sacrifice for me if I benefit from you. Okay? If I do something for your father or for my father. Okay? Hare ze yefer. In this case, as a Mishnah, the husband should revoke it, implying that it is possible for him to revoke the vow before it takes effect, given that it was based on conditions.
And that the condition is impossible to avoid.
Okay, well, we'll see. Okay, we'll see. Gemara says, our Gemara, Tanya, we have a Braita that says as follows. She'eni nehenet la'aba ulavi imani oseh leficha. That she makes of when she makes a vow that I would benefit from your father, from my father or for your father, if I do something for you. Okay? In other words, her husband's father, her father-in-law. Okay? What happens? Rabbi Nassan Omer, he says, lo yefer, that the husband cannot revoke it. V'chachamim omrim yefer, but the sages say that he may revoke. Okay, what about the following? Netula, okay, so in that particular case, by the way, all right, we might argue that since it has an impact on him, okay, it's not in effect yet.
With his position earlier.
Right.
That the vow, although uttered, is not yet in effect.
Fact.
The husband can
He
act.
can still act, right?
No, cannot act according to Reb Nachman.
That's according to Rab Nassim, not a sages say he can act. Okay, that's the point. That's why I said the question is, can he revoke it before it takes effect, depending on the condition? Now she gives another example. Netula ani min haYehudim im misham shetei. I am separated from all Jewish males if I have relations with you. Okay, that's what I said. Rabbi Nassan Omer lo yefer. Rabbi Nassan again says the husband cannot revoke that vow. The Chachamim omrim yefer. And the sages, however, say he can revoke the vow. Why would he want to revoke it? Why? Because remember, she has if she's married to him, she has, from the ketubah, she has a requirement to have relations with him. That's number one.
And if he divorces her, she can never remarry.
That's a second issue. That's a second
Because
issue.
his family have to support her.
Okay, that's a separate issue, but you're right, but that's a second issue. Okay, she can't, right? She'll get, so that's the point. So what happens? All right, the sages say he can revoke it. So again, we say that, see, the view of the sages is that the husband may revoke a vow before it takes effect if it depends on certain conditions. And the conditions are such that they're very problematic. Now we get to a new story. Okay? Hahu Gavra, there was a certain fellow, the Itza Haniata, the Alma Ale, and he made a vow that any benefit from the world of any kind is prohibited to him, inasiv itata, were he before he were to marry, kilo tanina hilchata. If I'm not able to learn a certain amount of mishnayos and halachos, okay, a certain amount. Okay, we don't. That's okay. It doesn't say. It just says mishnayos.
What is benefit from the world? I mean,
In other words, basically the implication is I won't marry, I won't this, I won't that, etc., etc.
He's trying to encourage himself to be
All right.
more diligent in his.
Well, we'll see how diligent he is. Okay. What happens, says our Gemara, our Braita, Rahit begafa v'tovliya. Okay, the direct translation is he ran with his walking stick in his purse. The implication is he put extra great effort into trying to learn. But what happens, says our Braita, Velo amse lemitna, but he wasn't successful in his learning. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so if that's the case, if he wasn't successful, all right, what is the implication? His vow goes into effect. He can't marry or benefit in other ways. All right? Ata Rav Acha bar Rav Huna. Along comes Rav Acha bar Rav Huna. Vishibshe. Okay, and what does he do? He tricks him. V'insi be'itita. And he arranges for him to marry a woman. And of course, that way he's able to, and announce the vow.
No, not yet.
Okay,
It hasn't come into effect.
all right, okay.
He tricks him into marriage.
It tricks him into marriage.
So now he's married and now the vow is.
Now the vow would go into effect, and we have to assume that he'll annul. Okay, Vishar Ketine Va'ache the Kami de Rav Chisda. And what did he do? He has the young man change his clothes, and according to others, he had him put all sorts of dirt and his schmutz on his body. He disguised him, okay, so to speak, and brings him before Rav Chisda. Okay, and tomorrow tune in and we'll see what happens to this young man.
The point now being he needs to have his clothes clean. So he can't even defer in 5 minutes. Somebody has to.
Right, well, that's because Rav Chisda holds like Shmuel, okay, that dirty clothes is tantamount to a health hazard, and therefore that's the reason.
So now he has to be.
We meet right here tomorrow. We will be in here tomorrow. If Gary says we're in here tomorrow, because that's beneficial. I guess he got the Nusach Sfard minion able to juggle their time to fit the women time, and so that's good. Okay, Isaac.
I want to, regarding the film, I can bring you to cover the film because
I've got to work on it a little more because I was told there's a problem with with the Siyum Mishnayos, and they may have to rejuggle that date. So let me see what happens. Okay? But I appreciate your offer very much. I'm Mhm. There's a series of books that the Cleveland Yeshiva puts out called The World That Was. It has one on Germany, on Poland, on various other places. And it gives that same, it tells you all about what things were like before World War II in those Jewish communities. Stephen, what are you catching there? You want the door open?
He was either historian or sociologist.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Oh, that's the one that was flying around.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll want to listen to some of the Gemara.
Mordecai, I'll be right there.
What are the changes in the next 2 days?
No, we're gonna remain in that room.
That room, same time after Shabbos.
Right. And
Yeah.
remember, Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh tomorrow. so-
Will they start before 7:30 or just finish later?
No, it just means we won't start till later, so we'll
Okay.
probably finish a
So
little.
they care probably close to 8:45.
Okay. All right, so I got my new shoes delivered.
Good.
All right, so Gary came and told me they rearranged it, so we'll be still in there tomorrow morning. All right?
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Man,
Yeah.
very comfortable.
Yeah, so I I just delivered like late Friday afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to put them.
You are managing, I believe.
Yeah, now I gotta remember where I put the car. Yeah. I think we're in the second. Oh, there it is. Okay.
It's a very good trick that I learned.
Yeah.
Can't find a fire, it's a big lot. Okay, you hold it against the chin. Sometimes for a considerable distance.
Yeah.
That it doesn't work when you hold the